Let's check out today's conversation. Mike sits down with Senior Vice President of Sales for Globe Life Liberty National Division, Rich Correa. We get to experience the evolution of Rich's career mindset, beginning with a shaky start to his life as a father.
My mom was not happy, but my dad was like, well, you decided to be a dad. Time to get to work. You got a family to support.
To facing unexpected career chaos.
And just one day he comes in and completely takes my agency from me.
To defining the mindset of a true leader.
I think to my core that success is a responsibility.
All of this coming up next on the Level Up Lifestyle.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Level Up Lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sheets, and we are coming to you live, as always, from Globe Life Studios in McKinney, Texas. And so excited for today's episode. Have a great guest on deck. We're wrapping up season 2, if you can believe that. And season 2, we're talking about mindset and where does a winning mindset come from? How do you develop it? How do you foster it? So with me today to talk about that is Rich Correa. Hey, Rich.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Congratulations on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Happy to be part of it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
It's exciting to have you here. So Rich, for all of the listeners that don't know, Rich, you are the SVP, the Senior Vice President of Sales for Globe Life Liberty National Division. And this is kind of a corporate world is new for you, right? Just when we're sitting here doing this, you're about 6-9 months into the home office in that role. But prior to that, you've got history way back in the company for decades, right? You started as an agent in 2003, 2002.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this journey a little bit. With the company, left, came back, became an agency owner for Liberty National sister company, American Income, in Globe. You're an agency owner for how long?
10 years.
For 10 years.
Yeah.
Promoted 10 people to the agency owner position as well while you were an agency owner. So definitely talking about leaving a legacy and giving this opportunity to other people. So it's just a great journey that you've gone through. Lots of kind of pivotal moments in your career. And what was the mindset in different parts that helped you through it? So
definitely blessed. Blessed,
for sure. So let's dig into it. All right.
Sure.
So just start out kind of just backstory. Where are you from? What was upbringing? All kind of who is Rich Correa?
Who's Rich Correa? I was born and raised Denver, Colorado. Actually lived my whole life here until joining Liberty and coming down here, first time out of Colorado.
Because you find it's kind of hard to know where you're going when you don't have the mountains to the west, right? And there's no mountains in Texas, right? Which way are we driving?
But the snow's gone, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's 85 as we're doing this right now.
But born and raised in Denver. I'm an only child. Okay. My dad was an auto mechanic.
Okay.
Growing up, always been an auto mechanic. My mom was always...
Did he own his own shop or kind of worked for...
Just worked for somebody, And my mom had various jobs, but, I always remember she was a lunch lady in the schools, including the one I went to school with. That's
well, that had to be kind of interesting.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, your mom's the lunch lady.
Yeah. And then she would come home, take care of me and my dad, and then leave at night to go clean hotel rooms.
Oh wow.
In a DoubleTree hotel that's ironically later on was across the street from my office. So but yeah, great upbringing, great aunts and uncles and cousins and
family.
On my mom's side. I didn't really know my dad's side too much, but all on my mom's side, sorry. Pretty big family, a lot of cousins, aunts and uncles. It was always a good time. So great upbringing. Didn't go to college, so went through school like everybody, but wasn't a great student in high school. Barely graduated high school. I was just a lazy student. I love learning and stuff like that, but I didn't want to do the homework. I was more concerned with hanging out and girls and sports and all that stuff. So But passed a biology test like the last day of my senior year, so I could walk on time. So I graduated.
So was it just like, hey, just college isn't in the stars, or was it like maybe take a break and figure it out, or what were you?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. College was expensive, still is, and stuff like that.
Right.
So, I was kind of done with once school was done with me. I was done with school type thing. So, I had children very early in life, and that alters a lot of stuff.
So when did that?
She wasn't my wife at the time, but just turned 22.
Okay.
Or I think she just maybe 21, and she just turned, 19 or 20.
And you met Tasha in high school, right?
Yeah. Met in high school, been together ever since. But having kids early, you find out you're going to be a dad, pretty early alters some stuff.
Sure.
Alters some stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the first portion of my life was my whole life's been great, but it was just a good upbringing. Every family has their, I don't think any family's perfect, but my parents did the best job, that they can, or that they could.
Did you pick up any work ethic stuff just from seeing your dad? What was he working long hours, and your mom obviously kind of going and working nights? I mean, how does that resonate with you?
I mean, they taught me a lot of stuff, but they always taught me work ethic and to work hard and to take pride in a job well done. And when you commit to something, you're committed to a job. You show up every day. To miss work is like blasphemy to them. And I saw, they practiced what they preached. And, my dad.
So they're like working all the time. Yeah. And in Colorado, it was snowing and,
and we never took vacations, we didn't have a ton of money, but they just worked, they just worked. And, even as a student growing up, I had to be like on my deathbed. They'd be like, you're going to school, you're going to school, you're going to school, you're going to school. So it always rubbed off on me, especially not just, the work ethic, but taking pride in just a job well done. You know what I'm saying? And that's something they instilled in me, and they practiced it, absolutely. So
what's kind of the thought, or I guess at this stage in your life, you're just starting you're having kids early.
Yeah.
So are you
not planned, by the way?
Right. So are you now like, okay, I'm going to go out into the job force, see what's going on, or like what are the next steps for you?
Yeah. When I told my dad, and I was afraid to tell my parents. My mom was not happy, but my dad was like, "Well, you decided to be a dad.
Time to get to work.
Time to get to work. You got a family to support." And he's just that old school kind of mentality. And so, not going to college, you apply for odd jobs and or anything that would take you. My first job during high school and a little bit out of high school was at a dry cleaners.
Okay.
For, just a kid trying to make gas money and stuff like that. And then after that was doing data entry for a company that, it was just first name, last name, round account number of bounced checks. Merchants in Denver. But the only thing I always say I got from that job is I'm pretty quick on the computer still.
Yeah.
I think it was like $11 an hour. So I was working, got a baby on the way, and I was actually going to be. I always wanted to be a police officer.
Okay.
So in between there, I was going to go to the Aurora, Colorado Police Academy, and I actually started.
You started the academy.
I started the academy.
Okay. Officer Correa.
Yeah. No, I wanted something exciting.
Yeah.
Professional. Always wanted to help people. Always had a respect for, law enforcement, military, stuff like that. So, and I had a couple buddies that were interested as well. So we're like, let's go join the police force. And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. Unfortunately at that time, and I was already kind of enrolled in there when I found out I was going to have a baby. It was unpaid training. So baby's on the way, panic. And that's what led me to the data entry stuff.
How long was the training going to be?
Was I in there? Almost a full year.
Oh, wow. So you got to go a full year with.
Yeah, almost. I'd say about 8 months, somewhere in there.
And the train, it's like all day or very time consuming.
Yeah, I think you even got college credit for it or stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So, and you do ride-alongs at night. So it was time, but it was fun. It was exciting. I was working towards something. I was living at home with my parents at the time, so I didn't really have bills to worry about. They were doing the best they could. But how did you feel? Coming.
Yeah, how do you feel? Because it's like, this is kind of like your dream at the moment, right? You're like, oh, this is going to be great. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, guess what? We're not going to do that. So
I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't suck.
Yeah.
It didn't suck. But, you have to take responsibility. It's not about you anymore. It's about this baby that's on the way. And, I always wanted to be a good dad and provide for my family and stuff. So it was like, it sucked, but it was kind of an easy decision too. Even though I went to like an $11 an hour data entry job, at least I was bringing in something.
To do something.
Yeah, I had to do something. Yeah.
And you said you're living at home right now.
Yeah, at this time I was living at home. So, and then it wasn't too long after that I found out I was going to have a second baby. So my oldest son and my daughter are literally, they're 1 year and a week apart.
Okay.
So they were back to back. So, got to get in gear when that happens.
Yeah,
absolutely. So,
got to figure it out.
You got to figure it out. Yeah.
So you're doing the data entry to try to make ends meet. Now you got a second kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't happy because I wasn't helping people. It wasn't exciting. Like I said,
you weren't happy with the
data entry
job.
thing.
Okay.
And not to, sound arrogant or anything. I knew I was better than $11 an hour.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But I also knew I really at that time, this is, over 20 years ago, I didn't have the right to really ask for anyone. Nothing on my resume said that I deserved more. And
did you feel like, man, I wish I would have went to college, or I wish I could have done.
Because I had friends going to college.
Yeah.
And they're, we would go up to Boulder and hang out and party and they're having the time of their lives. And I'm I already had one kid, one's on the way. I'm like, man, what did I do? Right. So, I knew I was better than $11 an hour, but I've always tried to be pretty realistic. I knew I didn't have the right to ask for that. To ask for any more than that. So I was just kind of, I don't know what I'm doing. I wasn't happy. Didn't know what I was doing. Eventually got laid off from there. They did some layoffs. So now I'm unemployed. And I think my son was already born at that time. He may have not been born. It was like right around there.
Yeah.
So now I'm out of a job. And my wife is trying to do everything she can to take care, be a mom and
right.
and provide as well.
And she's working.
Yeah. We had great support. Her parents and my parents
watching the kids and
things like that. But they worked hard. Her parents worked hard. I just told you my parents were still working hard. And they're like, they get home, they're like, oh, you're going to throw kids on me. We're tired. But they did goodbye us and stuff like that. So, I'm out of a job with 2 kids. I'm out of a job.
How'd that feel?
To be honest with you, as a man, you don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you whether it's instilled by my parents or maybe I'm just old school and not to come across as a caveman, but I want to provide for my family. I want to support my family. I want to be someone my kids could look up to. You know what I'm saying? It's not fair. She wasn't my wife at the time, but it's not fair that everything's on her shoulders. And it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. Plus, listen, I'm still young at this time, and I'm already like, what's my life doing?
Right.
What's going to happen? But
very early on, you're in this crossroads.
Yeah. And you don't know it at the time, right? But talking to you, it brings you back. So
yeah.
But then we're back to throwing a resume out there, though, dry cleaners and no college and a data entry job.
Name and a phone number.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, I like I said, I knew I was better than $11 an hour. I wanted something professional. I wanted to dress up and go to work, maybe put a suit on and tie.
Yeah.
Some of that is, I don't know why at this time, but I just felt once again, I wanted to see, my kids when they see me going to work with a suit and tie on. It just, maybe that was my mindset, you know.
That's understandable.
So what I did is I applied for all these bank teller jobs. I wanted to be a bank teller, right? I don't know why I wanted to be a bank teller. But banks never called. Banks never called. But this insurance company, they called me, American Income Life. Yeah. And
you didn't go looking for insurance.
Oh, no,
obviously.
No, I don't know who does, but right. I definitely wasn't the one, right? Did not go, but I always had an open mind. At that time, I couldn't say no to anything. Anybody that wanted to pay me, I needed a job. I understood that the bank that I really wanted, they weren't knocking down my door to become a bank teller at Chase or Wells Fargo or something. But yeah, no, I went to every interview with an open mind, no preconceived notions really. Never really looked for sales. I think, back then, I think in my mind, it was the stereotypical sales people, the dirty car salesman. Yeah. Didn't want to do that, but I'd still go with an open mind. Attended a CLB and was sold, was hooked. And thank God I was. Thank God they gave a good CLB that day.
Right.
My family thanks them.
Yeah. So you're in, like, is it like, then what's the start? So now transitioning in insurance, or if anything can happen in the interview process or starting process or anything.
Well, let me give you, so again, in Colorado at this time, a license was, I think, $410.
Yeah.
And
you had to go to class. You had to go in-person class. Right. Yeah.
And my dad wanted me to him, hardworking guy, go put a jackhammer in your hand, go do something. Insurance, they're not gonna pay you during training. It's unpaid training. I told you to provide for your family. What are you doing? By the way, after that conversation, by the way, Dad, I need to borrow $410 to go get this license. They said so I'll tell you, I think, and I say this proudly, I think one of the things that served me in my life is I'm a proud Generation X person, and we're defiant. Mm-hmm. The more you tell me I can't do something, sorry, Mom and Dad or anybody, it makes me want to do it more. So I was, Dad, you don't think I can make this? Okay, now I got to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
I love you. Now I got to prove you wrong. My mom's on my case. Some of my, one of my uncles was like, what are you doing? And I was like, just bring it on. Now I got to prove you wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that was my start, at least, the first initial start after being hired, having to borrow the money. And didn't know
all the doubters.
All the doubters. Didn't know what I was getting involved in. Still hoping that the banks would call me to get me out of this, but they never called. Thank God. Like I said,
it's a good thing, right?
Yeah. So didn't even pass the test the first time, so I had to go back to my dad, and that wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. Yeah. So, but got through it and started training. That was fun.
Training?
That was interesting.
How was your training?
Was interesting. Training was, I guess I'm insulting training by calling that training, probably, if that makes sense, because back then it was a different time. This is, again, we're talking over 20 years ago.
Right.
And, it was kind of the philosophy is, your best training was go out there, get punched in the face, get your nose bled a little bit. And that's the best training for you. It would give you scripts and stuff. And so I get thrown in training with this guy. To make a long story short, first day of training, we have about 3 or 4 appointments. A great stacked schedule, 3 or 4 appointments.
You get in trouble for that nowadays, right? Yeah, it's not good.
So, as you can imagine, the day goes to crap. So I think we got no-showed on our first 2. The third one was medically insurable. I'm sorry, we get no-showed on our first one. Second one was medically uninsurable. Our next one wasn't for like in 3 or 4 hours. So you would think the new guy, we'd be practicing scripts or setting more appointments,
right? Doing something to generate some activity.
No, this guy took me to right outside the Denver Natural History Museum. There's a pond,
Yeah.
Sat on a bench, man, and we fed ducks and geese for a couple hours. A true story. And this guy, I want to call him out, but I won't. But in case he sees this, but this guy,
you know who you are.
Yeah, you know
who you are.
This guy, man, he went to college. He wanted to be a weatherman, a meteorologist, or something like that. And all he talked about, and I'm not kidding how much he hated insurance. He doesn't know why he's doing it. He's only doing it to buy his time. He's going to be a great weatherman one day. And I'm sitting there, my first day of training, and I'm just like, okay, go with the flow, and okay, and here are ducks and stuff. We go to our last appointments and, nothing happens. And that was my first day of training.
Okay, so let's pause there because this is kind of a master class in what not to do.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And, for all the reasons of it's not effective training, but it's also not a good way to, I guess, say, hey, this is a great industry for you to be in. You should really work hard at this.
Lie to me.
Right. Oh, I hate this.
Right,
and let's go feed the ducks. It's probably not, telling you. So why did you come back for your second day?
I still don't know. I guess because I had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And
you got a family you have to take care of.
Family to take care of, and I had to prove people wrong.
Invested a lot of money in the test.
Yeah,
of course.
I had to. So I could not prove them right. So show up the next day. Good news for me, I was with somebody else.
Okay.
I had to drive down to Colorado Springs, about an hour south of Denver.
Yeah.
I had to drive down. No money, right? She couldn't have picked me up, or she couldn't give up, but drive and meet this lady. She has a whopping 3 appointments. Meet up with her. She gives the first 2 presentations, and the last one, never forget it. We're going to it was a single mom in an apartment, and on the way there, she goes, "Okay, this one's yours." And I go, "Lady, I haven't practiced. What do you mean this one's mine?" She's like, "Oh, you'll be okay." I wasn't. Knees were shaking on the table. Scared. We didn't sell it. Again, true story. We get back in the car. She gets on the phone, calls someone. I don't know who she called, and said, "Yeah, but he's ready. I think he's good." And I'm looking out the window. I'm like, am I? I didn't know. I'm like, is she serious? The next day, I was supposed to be released, get my first set of leads over there, and the system was down, CAS was down, and they couldn't pull me leads. So they were scrambling, like, well, go back and meet her. She didn't have appointments because she didn't think she was going to be with me.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, okay, meet me at my house. So drive me. She lived in Brighton, which again, is like 30, 40 minutes north of Denver.
And by the way, could have picked you up on the way to the Springs the day before because she drove past you. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm like, man, I'm going to have to borrow money from my dad for gas money, all this stuff. So, but I got there, and what she did for 2-3 hours, I sat at her kitchen table and I recited the presentation to her back and forth. She started cooking dinner for her husband halfway through. And once he got home, she's like, "Okay, you're good. You can leave now." Didn't even let me stay for dinner. Or anything like that. I'm starving. And
grab something on the way home.
Like, So, and the next day after that, I had leads and I was on my own. That was it. That was my training.
That was it. So that's how not to train people. If anybody's in training right now as they're listening to this while you're driving around, it's... this is what not to...
Don't do what the weatherman did.
Yeah. Oh, man. Don't be like the weatherman.
Right.
So the mindset at this point to keep coming back is proving people wrong.
At this
point,
Taking
care of your family.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll say by this time, I'd attended some meetings, and there was something there. There was something there.
You're seeing people make money.
Yeah. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. I see it. Don't really know people at this time. I'm still new, but, it may sound arrogant, but I was like, if that guy can do it, you know what I'm saying? I've always been pretty confident. Anything I put my mind to, I'll get it done. I just had to figure it out. And, and a lot of those guys, I was right. It was like, the only thing they had on me was they've been 6 months in, 8 months in, 2 years in.
They got there before you.
They just got there before me. So, but there was something that kept coming back, and there were some great people. I mean, people, like Josh Goodman at the time, other people that
Josh Goodman did my CLB.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something about him. Shout out to Josh Goodman.
Yeah.
And Steve DiCharo came in. Me and him were, I forget who was first, but like within 2 weeks of each other.
Right.
And he was always a good guy. So there was good people there as well that really cared.
So as you're progressing, I mean, are things going well? I mean,
I actually came out of the gates kicking butt a little bit. My first week, I didn't make a sale for my first, I think 3 days. So I was, then I really got nervous then as well. And, finally made a sales, like a little $200, but okay, I got the
right. You did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. And then went to my next appointment. I mean, momentum is real. Made another little small sale, went to another appointment. And this was the big one. This is on the same day. Made a sale with a nice lady, a little bit bigger. They were getting a little bit bigger every time. I'm getting a little comfortable here. And her son and daughter came over for dinner while I was filling out paperwork. And she was like, hey, you two, you're getting this. You need to sit down and get this. So I'm like, she's like, can you just show them? And she's like, I'll pay for whatever. Yeah. I was like, sure. So after my day is done, I called that guy that trained me, the weatherman. And I said,
Mr. Duck.
Yeah. I go, I think I just wrote 4,000 AOP, AP. And he goes, no. He's like, here, do this. This is before FaceTime and all this stuff. Right. He's like, and I go, this check says this check says it. He's like, yeah, you did. Want to be in management? And I go, sure. And I was in SA that following Monday.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So, and fun fact, that 4,000 week is still my biggest week ever. I never touched it again. I was always a consistent agent. I was never the greatest agent. Yeah. I was always a consistent agent. So, my first, 3 to 6 months was pretty steady. I was doing pretty well. Actually, about 3 months, 3-4 months. I was doing pretty well. That spiked that first week, peaked my first week, but I settled in about a 1,800 to 2,200, AP agent.
Yeah, and then and eventually you're moving up into leadership. You're getting an agency. Now you have a team of people.
Yeah,
and things are going well, I'd assume, right?
Yeah. I was introduced to recruiting that Monday. That's what we do. It was a stack of resumes in the middle of a big conference table, and I'm calling resumes for other, over there MGAs, but same equivalent as ADs here. I'm setting interviews for other ADs that's what we did. But I fell in love with it. I saw the people that were living, I never really wanted their life, don't get them wrong, but I liked their lifestyle. They were, I guess, let me sum it up by this. I noticed that the people who weren't working the hardest were making the most money.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And that was intriguing to me. Unlike a lot of people at that time in the agency, they were hating on them. These jerks, these whats, man, they get to go home early while we're out here slaving at night. No, I was attracted to it. I go, why are we complaining? Let's go find out what they're doing. And it was all about recruiting. It was all about
growing the size of your agency. That's really what it is.
I thought I was being tricked or something. I go, because I'm 22, maybe knocking on 23 at this time, and not the sharpest tool in the shed. I've grown up in this business. I've matured in this business. I used to talk like, yo, Mike, I need a job. Yo, come on, And so that's the guy they hired. But talking, to Josh, I go, when he explained recruiting to me, I said, again, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but so you're telling me I can hire as many people as I want. Nobody's going to tell me to stop hiring. And all I got to do is train them. But I was going to go sell some life insurance this weekend. I just got to take them. Okay, cool. So it's not as lonely anymore. I just got to take them with me and show them.
Get a loaf of bread and let's go.
Right. Some lunch meat and some jerky or something. And let's go. And they're going to help me accomplish anything I need for me and my family. And I don't have to pay them. It's a no-brainer. And from that, after that conversation with them, recruiting was never a chore for me. I couldn't forget the sales, man. Give me people. And you know what I'm saying? So yeah. So back to your original question, it was a good start. I made, again, MGA, equivalent of
agency director.
Yeah, agency director. in about 8 months was making more money than I was in heaven. And this is at a time before, again, we're still talking 20 years ago. There was no bonus. There was no training bonus, leadership bonuses. It was, override and whatever you sell. But I'm still, there's a comma in my check. I'm in heaven. I'm in absolute heaven. So
what changes? Because at one point you leave this company.
Yeah.
So things are going well, and then things started to
someone else
change.
I won't name, but I mean the agency owner at the time, for whatever reason, I have my theories, but for whatever reason, comes in on a Monday. I'll never forget it. I wasn't the best AD at the time. I wasn't the one, at the top, but within 8 months, I had like 19, 20, maybe even 21 agents.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing
good sized agency.
Yeah, we're doing 15 to 18,000 a week back then.
Yeah.
Agency's doing good. This guy is, always in, my former agency owner, he's always in contention for, agency owner of the year, stuff like that. I mean, and just one day he comes in as I'm going to make some changes and completely takes my agency from me. I didn't do anything wrong. I've always been ethical. I just told you my numbers. One, because my agency there were no complaints about it. It's not, I don't know what, maybe you need more money or something, but and I was the lowest, newest guy in the totem pole at the time. He had one of his friends working at, was an AD working in the agency, and maybe some other guys were just with him. I don't know, but
maybe a bit of nepotism or something in there.
Maybe, I don't know. I'd love to have a beer with him one day and just really ask. But anyways, just took all those agents. It didn't disperse. I mean, really coded them, I think, all to him, put me back to a GA under this other guy. And at this time, little asterisk on this story is found out I was going to have my third child. And I remember, some of it was arrogance, again, still being a little maybe immature.
Yeah.
But I still think I was justified, because imagine that, man. I mean, how do you just come in and have that much control over my life and my income, where because you just felt, or for whatever reason, you just take all my hard work.
Right.
And I knew some of the agents, they weren't going to stick. And sure enough, they didn't stick. And you know how it is. Sometimes they're
recruited by you, they were trained by you, they're on your team, and they're loyal to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew it wasn't just
remove the head
me.
Coach, and the players maybe don't want to play for the new coach.
And I knew it wasn't just about me, even though I was really worried about myself and my family at the time. But I knew the ripple effect. They weren't going to stay. I was like, what is this doing?
Yeah.
So it was more of that maybe Generation X defining thing. It was like, F you, man, I'm out of here. And at this time, some of the, in our business, we lose agents, stuff like that. Some of them, went to another insurance company, and they're always keeping in touch with me, and because we always stayed friends. And they were talking about this other insurance company. So I knew I was a shoo-in that could get me a position there. So I went to another insurance company and sold like mortgage protection for about a year over there. That was to make a long story short there, the reason why I left there is going into the new year, 1 year, we got a notice that they were taking our renewals from us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm in it. I don't care what company it is. I'm in this for the renewals. So.
Well, you're in the insurance industry because you want that residual income, right?
100%.
It allows you to earn in the future off work that you did in the past. Yeah. And, I think it's important here for, maybe some of the listeners, just context wise here, what's like the dynamics of some of the undertones that are happening here in your story, because at American Income, Globe Life right now, like where you're at, there's kind of two paths you can go down. You can go down like an agent path where you're in the field meeting with clients, providing the benefits to them, protecting their families, right? You got to meet them when they're available. So that's, a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, depending on the market you're in. If you're in the work site, you're maybe in there at their place of business, but it's long hours in the field. And then there's a leadership path where it's growing and developing the agents, right? And so it is still a lot of hard work. It's just a different way.
Right.
It's different times. Right. It's doing different things. It's the recruiting. It's the training and the developing.
Right.
And then at the same time, you're gaining renewals off all the sales that are happening. Right.
So and that's what makes all the hard work you're describing worthwhile. Right. You're not only getting paid very well up front, but like we always said, you're setting up your family's future at the same time.
But even when you go to this mortgage company, you're not really able to build a team. It's more, you're just selling.
Yeah, there was no, it was just selling and, which at the time I guess I was okay with. They really didn't hold you accountable. So coming from the environment I was in, it was kind of
structured.
There was no structures, like whatever you sell. If you don't sell any, it was nobody coming down on you, anything like that. And I guess at the time that was a little, refreshing, but it wasn't good for me. I need to be held accountable, like we all do. And I need to be a part of something. I wasn't a part of something over there. And then they take the renewals away. That made a pretty easy decision. Yeah. And I remember, I still had some appointments that day that they announced that. And most of the agency quit on that day. But I went into a house, gave a very lackluster, we'll call it, presentation, got in my car, called my wife, and I go, you know what? I just don't want to do insurance anymore. I was just done with it, with those two experiences with that I just went through. So I'm back looking for a job again. And again, at this time, and my wife Tasha, she's doing, she's always had a job, always working, being a mom, support, going to work, picking up the kids from, daycare, cooking us dinner. It, just like any good woman is. And now I'm without a job. So I actually got on very quick to sell steel buildings, which ironically their office was across from American Income Life's office, literally across the street. Yeah, right in Hampton. And I'm looking over there. I go on break with some guys, You
can see the
now old... I'm not on commission, but now I'm hourly. Back to hourly.
Okay. Yeah.
Punch out for lunch for like $500, like $400 every 2 weeks type deal. But, and I'm talking to guys at their smoke break. I don't smoke, but we're talking. I'm like, yeah, man, American Income Life, insurance. Like, you like it so much. Why don't you just
you're selling them every break, and you can see it. I'm like, oh, look at those guys. Look, there's Josh Goodman in his Mercedes. And
right. It's like, I can't, see his car parked there. And I can't go back because, whether Defiant, Bill Jennings, couldn't, I couldn't make him Pride. I couldn't get back. So anyways, and thank God again for a guy named Josh Goodman, right? Because I quit the steel building because, again, it wasn't for me. I was not happy.
Yeah.
And this was a long time. Now I'm going months without any work. And about this time, it's about now touching about 2 years since I was last with American Income Life. And once again, my dad, being a dad, meet him for lunch is like back to same guy is like, hey, you got a family to support. What are you going to do? You got to do something. Enough's enough.
This is almost the same conversation he had with you back with the first child.
Yeah. And, enough's enough. What are you going to do? And, no joke, man, a couple minutes after that, my phone rings and it's Josh Goodman. Because again, I put my resume back out there. He had come across it again, said, Rich, you're a guy, we didn't want to leave the first time. Made some changes around here. Why don't you come back in and talk to me? And I go, okay, Josh, I'll come back in. And went in and had a conversation with him. And when I came back, I said, yes, thank you. Because the pride in me is, as long as you're asking me back,
I'll do it.
I'll do it. Yeah. And thank God for him and that he made that phone call, or he could have threw my resume away or maybe laughed at it or just saying, but I think I made enough impression. He even said that to call me. And I said, Josh, yes, I need to come back. I'd love to come back. I've just got 2 requests, man. Number 1, I can't work in the same office as that guy.
Right.
Because he's still that guy. So find me a spot. And at the time, as I came back, I recognized some faces and Steve DiCharo was still there. And at this time, this is about, again, 2 years after I left, he had opened a satellite office just north of Denver, Westminster. And Josh was like, well, Steve's gone. I was like, oh, DiCharo's there? Yeah, man, let's go. Yeah, I'll go up there. he said to me, so I went and talked to Steve, and I go, and the second thing I need is an SA contract. Don't start me as an agent. I need an SA contract, and give me some resumes, and let's go. And you all, and Steve and Josh accommodated that.
So. Yeah. So now you're back.
Now I'm back. Yeah.
Right. And kind of full circle. And again, it's at that point you're making that decision. Like, all right, you want the leadership contract. You want the ability to grow and build a team. That's the key.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
so what are you thinking when you're coming back? What's the mindset at this moment? It's like, that's it now. It's time to go forever. Or,
it was enough's enough. Right. And, one of the lessons I learned, because I told you, when I was first, I think 2 new cars, I was making more money than I ever had. And when I left in that time period, I had those cars repossessed. And,
oh, wow.
And, like I said, my wife was doing the best she can, but there was a little, government assistance, food stamp time in there.
Yeah.
And so in talking to myself, and, what am I, probably 26 at this time or something. Mm-hmm. And talking to myself, I had to make a promise to myself that I will never give anyone that control over me or my family's future again, like this former agency owner.
Caused you to leave.
Yeah.
You gave that person that control. It
came back to me. The opportunity came back to me for whatever reason. But I knew I knew that he was still there. It could have happened again. But I made a promise to myself that I will never give somebody that control, that I'm in control of my career, of my family's future, and the opportunity that's given me. It came back to me, but it's what I make of it. And that's a lesson I learned in there, because my life, went to hell in that 2 years
when you left,
and something brought it back to me. So yeah, that's what and it just gave me I was in control. Yeah, I was, and that's always been important to me.
Yeah. So, once you come back, obviously lots of hard work, spending a lot of time growing, developing, you're getting back in the field, you're developing people, you're growing, you're building your agency. Eventually, as this happens, you become the agency owner, right? Steve leaves, he comes to Liberty, and you now have the opportunity to become the agency owner, earn that right, right, coming back, and then through that period of time, you experienced a lot of success. So what was that transition like for you? Just, now you're the owner. Has the mindset changed at all? Have you? Like, what are you thinking?
Before I get there, let me give you a quick shout out, because when I did come back, that's when I met you.
Right.
And we came up in the same office.
We did. Yeah.
And, I know how you felt, but I always felt like I was in competition. It was always healthy.
Sure.
Because we hung out and it was cool. You beat me and my team, and sometimes
we've got lots of competitive stories between you and I that we are not going to be putting in the Level Up Lifestyle podcast.
But no, that was cool. Meeting you and you drove me, and you've always been humble and a good guy and all that stuff. So when I came back, I was able to meet you. And but back to so what was my mindset? Well, it happened so fast. My head was spinning. I think it happened fast for the trial as well.
Sure.
Steve, he'll tell you. But I think at that time you had left to be the trainer.
I had left a year or two before.
Right. Yeah. And,
to come to the home office.
Yeah, to come to the home office. And it happened so fast. I didn't know what was going on. But I know I knew enough that I hit the lottery. They had tried to get me at America to be an agency owner a couple other times in the bullpen and all this stuff. And none of the places were right. And, I was making great money with under Steve's leadership as the agency owner at the time. So, but when they plugged Steve out, I'd be kind of dumb to not already take over.
Right. Sure.
And the operation I was already a part of and he'd help build, but it was already cash flowing and stuff like that. So, but, I was now leading guys that I was, going out with a beer with after, call clinic and stuff like that. And I'll never forget my first meeting with them behind and I think Steve it was like his last one. He said, but I was behind his desk now and they were turning it over to me. And I go, guys, I got good news and bad news for you. The good news for you guys is I was an AD yesterday. The bad news for you guys, I was an AD yesterday. I know everything we do and stuff like that. So, but listen, Steve said in his episode last season and thank him for all the accolades he gave us, because I was surrounded when I took over the agency. There was, I had my own Mike Sheets, my own Rich Correa, and Andrew McQuaid and Matt Turnquist, and Josh Goodman was still there. Steve Svensson. I mean, a lot of these guys who they were there. They were hungry and they were learning with me. And so I took over a good team, a good solid team that made it a lot easier. I'll say that,
I think that helps. I want to make sure that everybody understands there's another dynamic at play though here too, because while you didn't go and scratch out a brand new office, you and 4 people in a town that you never lived in before, you're taking over your peers, which is challenging. But it wasn't like, okay, let me just take this and then you just parked on it. You grew it a lot. And over the course of you being an agency owner for the next 10 years, you promoted 10 agency owners. Yeah. So I think there's embracing the opportunity. There's giving the opportunity back. Yeah. How important is just that mindset of connecting people to where they need to go to your success and what you did there, because you really did take something that was doing well, but you took it well beyond as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think all of us, when you, although like you said, it was cash flowing, but it wasn't, we weren't lighting the world on fire. We were good. We were a good, solid agency, but we weren't lighting the world on fire. But, I think to my core that success is a responsibility. And it was this opportunity was given to me. The baton that Steve gave me, I had to do better. I had to, whether it's my own drive or whatever, that the prior back to the job well done, I had to create opportunity for the people that are now looking at me the way I looked at Steve, and there's just some of that's being a dad. I mean, there's just such a responsibility to make the next generation, lives better, or, give them the opportunity that was given to me. I think, we can all, whether, whoever's out there listening to this, or definitely I know you and I, we're not where we're at if someone didn't, send the elevator back down to pick us up.
Absolutely.
So now, as the agency owner, that responsibility is on my shoulders, and these guys and these women that are looking to me for leadership, and some of them are starting their families, and my decisions could drastically change. I mean, it's like being a dad. It really is, and I just felt that I'm still a recruiter at heart at this time. My agency, we recruit, and part of the recruiting is not about codes or all this stuff. We had so many good, just stories of people, and a lot. I mean, it happened to you as well with people that their situation coming into our agency before they meet us, before they meet our company, and to see their lives change, whether it be obviously financial.
Well, that was the genesis of this whole podcast, was the stories across the company. Yeah. Right. It just over and over again, people in struggling situations get connected and look at, how they've overcome the adversity to be where they are.
Right. So, I think, giving back is it's such a responsibility in our positions. Yeah. And even before being an agency owner, but really at that level, to give the opportunity to others. And listen, I got greedy for it. I love that feeling more than any sale, more than was in my bank account. I just felt this overwhelming responsibility to give back, not only to my people, right? But also to American Income Life that has given me a lifestyle that, I mean, come on, man. I'm an uneducated little Mexican kid from Aurora, Colorado that
worked at a laundromat and data entry.
I should not make the money, and I should not have the opportunity. At least the culture I grew up in. If you didn't go to college, I just had to pinch myself. So, Roger Smith was the CEO of American Income Life, and I felt such a responsibility to give back to them, to give back to the company that has afforded me this. And who am I to stop anybody's opportunity? And I had, as an agency owner, I have the greatest opportunity. Like I just said, why wouldn't I want that for my people? When the timing's right, if they have my support, I'm giving back to them. I'm giving the same opportunity that was given to me. And I'm giving back, like I said, to them and their families and to the company that has supported me. And it feels good, and you get greedy for it.
Yeah.
You get greedy for it. And I'm proud. And listen, not all the agency owners I promoted are still over there, but I gave them the opportunity. That's up to them. Most of them are still over there. But I've given directors to that company, quality manager, great Elizabeth Ayala over there. And it was nothing, because I just felt it was my responsibility to give back to everybody that's given. I'm nothing without my agents that were there, and again, the company that supported me during that time.
Do you feel that helps create success? Like, in other words, if you're not putting other people's success first, it almost hinders you. But when you do it, they're kind of naturally pushing you up. And I'm saying you're doing it to help yourself, but it ends up helping you more than you could ever help yourself if you did it the other way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, on a personal, like I said, you personally get greedy for it.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the ripple effect it has in an agency to see that to just validate the opportunity, because at that time, 7, 8, 9 years in, they don't know my whole backstory and stuff like that. But to see the progression, to see the opportunity, just validates that the opportunity is here. This is why, again, you're knocking on doors later now. You're driving here and there and all that stuff.
It's almost like when you think about you as that brand new agent, where your field training is go feed the ducks, and you're really good after one presentation. But part of the reason why you stayed is you sat in the back of the room and you saw people experiencing success.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you helping other people and then showcasing that success in a way, or just helping them, you're almost empowering that newest person who's wondering, like, hey, is this going to be real, or what do I do?
It validates it. It validates that if you just put in the hard work, and you give yourself to our system. I'm a product of our system. I'm a product of the system. I just told you my background, told everybody my background. I'm where I'm at, not only because I've had great people around me, but I'm where I'm at because the scripts work, because everything. I'm glad I was dumb enough to not try to outsmart the system. Yeah. Really. And I always carried that. Because anytime that I did struggle in my career, in one way, shape, or another, I got off the system, and so whether it be presentation or recruiting and stuff like that. And it took someone to kind of smack me in the back of the head and say, no, dummy, remember, this is how we do stuff. And lo and behold, pull me back on the system, and everything's good again, Right. And so it was something that I wanted to protect as an agency owner, and show that if you just plug in the system, it will do for you what it did for me. And as the companies globe gets better, and there's new innovation with technology and compensation and leadership, they can accomplish what we accomplished in half the time. It doesn't. I really believe that. I really believe that. So just giving that, and it just always felt that the more opportunity I gave away, just good things always happen to me. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that tends to happen to a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, I like what you said earlier, where you have the obligation you take the elevator up and you get to the top floor, which is where you want to be in life. Send it back down. It's a responsibility. It's a duty you got to send it back down and help other people. Otherwise, you just wasted it. Yeah. You absolutely wasted it. And you probably don't deserve to be in the position you're in. So
More than my renewals, more than anything that I've accomplished. I'm proud of the agency owner promotions that I was able to accomplish in my, short tenure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, the whole theme here in this season as we're wrapping it up is mindset. And I wanted to, before we're done, I wanted to hit one moment kind of in your career and your life, professionally and personally, that I think just encapsulates that mindset and what it can do for you.
Yeah.
And then how that ties into success in business. So, take me to 2018.
Yeah.
And you're driving home in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
And
you lived a long time there.
Yeah.
As well, I live in Colorado. Driving in snow is nothing. It's nothing to me.
It's like driving on a sunny day in Texas.
It's nothing. You slow down a little bit, leave a little bit earlier, you're fine.
Yeah.
But there was a rare, I think it was like a 25, maybe they said like 30-year event, a bomb cyclone, and it got bad really quick. And I'm driving.
You're tying in your weatherman field trainer there with the meteorologist terms there.
But I'm on the phone with my wife. I remember I'm in the left lane of the highway, snowing bad, but I'm talking to her. I'm like, we're talking about getting somebody. I was like, what do you want me to pick up on the way home? And she'll tell the story, a different way, but from her perspective. But I'm literally on the phone. What are we going to eat? What do you want me to grab on the way home? And Mike, the next thing I know, I am in a river with the car on top of me.
Wow.
I lost control of the car. I don't remember. I remember sliding because I was in the left lane. I remember sliding, starting to spin. And I blacked out or whatever. The next thing I know, I wake up in the Platte River in Denver. Cold as heck. And
you're in the water.
Yeah, I'm in the water, and I'm cold as heck because I'd say 99% of my body's in the water. The only part of my body that is outside of the water is about like this nostril and about half my mouth.
So you can breathe a little bit.
Breathe a little bit. I'm blowing water out. I think I told you in the past, I play sports growing up. I roughed house with my cousin. I did. Up until this point, I never really had a broken bone, anything like that. I'm hurting.
Are you pinned or are you just laying in the river or what?
Oh, I'm pinned. The car is on top. I can't move. This arm is sticking out. The water is just rushing right here.
Wow.
And I'm, like I said, just this part is able to breathe. Can't move. And yeah, I'm scared. For the first time, really for the first time, I'm scared. Now, when I told you I was going to be a police officer. Mm-hmm. Now at this time, this was, almost, 18, even 20 some odd years before the accident. Again, to make a long story short, they would do training videos and there's stuff that they wouldn't even show the public, because it's training on what not to do as a police officer. It's
right.
Scary stuff. And during one of these trainings, this police officer telling the class a story about how to stay in control and control your mind and your thoughts, because he told a story about a police officer he was training, not training, one of his partners that he knew in California where he came from. And this guy would always talk about if he ever got shot, he was going to die. That's all he talked. And the guy would say, sometimes it's jokingly, but he just always said it.
It's like that premonition, oh yeah, that's just how I'm going to go.
If he were to ever, get shot, he was going to die. And sure enough, the day came. This guy was telling the story that he did get shot in a traffic stop, but it was a non-lethal wound, kind of in the shoulder area. But he panicked
because he thought this is it. I knew it was going to happen.
He panicked, and his body went into shock. And sure enough, he never recovered.
Wow. And so it was almost like the bullet isn't what killed him. It was his mindset about this is going to happen.
Yeah, the mind. And I think, not to get in science terms, but I think a lot of times our bodies, and I'll, based on my situation, I'll tell you all my injuries, but the human body can take a lot of damage. but the body's amazing, but the mind is very powerful. So back to the car accident, I don't know, this is 20 years ago. The story just always stuck with me. It was very, I guess inspirational. The power of the mind, it just resonated with me. And so I'm pinned under the car and I'm scared for a second. I'm scared for a second. And I remember that I'm pinned in the car, and I remember this guy 20 years ago. This was the first time in my life that I was faced with that kind of moment. And I remember talking to myself to calm down. Rich, stop, relax. It's not your time. It's not your time. You got your kids. It's just not your time. Relax. You got this. And that's how I was talking to myself. So I was like, Ray, just relax, calm down. And I did. I was able to calm myself. I was trying to move, but it wasn't working. You have
every right to panic when you wake up in a river in a blizzard with a car on top of you.
And sure enough, it wasn't. At least it seemed like forever. But I finally hear it was either paramedic or a firefighter or something saying, "Hey man, we got you. You're going to be okay." And when I heard someone else's voice, that's when I passed out. And next thing I wake up in a hospital. I brought broken neck for the first and second vertebrae. The doctor said it's what's called a hangman's fracture. He was shocked. He's like, I should either be dead or paralyzed. Face was 6 facial fractures, 4 broken ribs, lacerated kidney. A bunch of other stuff. So yeah, and I'm convinced still to this day that police officer and his story and the paramedics and the first responders saved me. Jaws of life and everything. They saved me. But I'll take some of the credit. I think I saved myself because just my mindset, the mindset, not to panic, and that's a very extreme, life altering, changing thing.
Sure.
It's a very extreme, but anybody that's listening is, whatever situation you're in, it's don't panic. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Find a way out. Find your first responder to help you. And, as I look back on it, that was 2018. So that's going on 5-6 years or something like that. I look back on it, and although it was painful and all that stuff, it wasn't as bad as in that immediate instance.
Well, it's a scenario of having the right mindset literally saves your life.
Yeah.
And again, the parallel to this here is you're in a situation where you're faced with adversity, you're faced with something uncomfortable, you're faced with something that you don't want to go through.
Yeah.
Maybe you had in your mind this kind of premonition that, if that happens, then that's it. I can't do this if this, and then, having that wrong mindset in that moment, it's going to be the end of whatever you're going through. Maybe it's the end of your career.
Yeah.
Because you had the wrong mindset versus relax. Like we've heard for a long time, Steve said, your problems aren't your problems. Usually it's your reaction to your problems 100%. Is your problem.
100%. Trust yourself. Trust the system, and have the right mindset, and I really believe you can overcome anything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, well, you're living proof of that sitting here today, right? So, absolutely. All right. Well, Rich, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. Before we go,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. As you know, you have sitting just over your right shoulder here is all the bobbleheads of our previous guests that we've had, and
I get to take one.
You get to pick one, and then tell that person why you chose them. No, that might be kind of fun, but no, we actually have a bobblehead of you that's on its way. Everybody gets a bobblehead for being on the podcast. Yours is somewhere in a container ship in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh,
it's on its way over, so we couldn't get it here in time, unfortunately, just production schedules and things like that. So, but I just want to ask you the same thing I ask everybody here is now. Here's the little bobblehead version of you that has, all these years of lessons learned and, developing that mindset. If, you're talking to yourself right in the very beginning, I guess early 20s, just trying to find your way. What do you tell yourself then based on what you know now?
Wow. That's a great question. I mean, coming from, obviously I just told my story and the opportunity came back to me. I'd say to myself, the same thing I'd say to anybody that's listening: don't waste the opportunity. Don't waste it. It's Globe Life, all the companies. It's a great opportunity. Don't waste it. Absolutely don't waste it.
Yeah. You have not wasted it. You've given it to many people, and you kind of cemented your legacy as well. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Rich.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has inspired you on your path to success. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. See you soon on the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast.